If you have always had the dream of living on the water and you're considering Calvert County, Maryland, you're going to want to watch this video. My name is Brian Mayer. I grew up on the water here. I currently live on the water, and I've spent my entire life on the water in Calvert County, Maryland. Today, we're going to go back through the previous 2 years of sales, and we're going to see what you get for $2 million, $1.5 million, $1 million, $900,000, and $500,000. And we're going to look at where those houses are located, how many days they were on the market, so you can kind of get an idea of what the market's like, and also look at what they sold for versus what the original list price was, so you can kind of get an idea on how to make an offer and what that process is like. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel, because I have an entire YouTube channel dedicated to living on the water in Maryland. All right, guys, in this video, we're going to go through all of the houses that have sold in Calvert County on the water in the past 2 years. And the first thing that I want to show you is where those houses are located. And I went from like 400,000 all the way up to 2.5 million. And I want to point out a couple things to you. So the first thing you're going to see is there's quite a few houses on the water here in Chesapeake Beach and North Beach. A lot of those are going to be townhouses, and there is a row of houses right there on the boardwalk. And then there's some houses right there kind of after you get out of North Beach and you're headed towards Anne Arundel County and next to Rosehaven. And then you don't really see a whole lot. There's a couple neighborhoods along the water, and then you're going to see like Scientist Cliffs and Kenwood Beach, and then you don't really see much again until you get down into Lusby. Now, these houses here are going to be riverfront houses where you can see the the Thomas Johnson Bridge, the Patuxent River Bridge right across from the Naval Air Station. That's a great place. And then you have these right here around Solomon's, and then these are in the Lusby area. So you can see the majority of the waterfront houses are actually right here around Solomon's and Lusby. We'll talk more about that later. One thing I really want to point out, and this is something I'm going to make a lot of videos about, is the idea that there is not many riverfront houses in Calvert County. So if you've always had the dream of living on the water, take a look at this wide swath of no houses have sold. And I'm going to show you the reason why. If you zoom in on them, you're going to see there's still a lot of farmland in Calvert County, and these farmers own almost all of the waterfront here. And you know, that's good and bad, but what it means for you as a potential home buyer is there's not a lot of opportunities for you to own houses on the river. So if they do come up, keep in mind, it's going to be something you're going to want to jump on, because there's not a lot of chances for you. Like, look at this right here. This is just one single farm. There's not a single house, and if there was, it certainly didn't sell. There's not very many houses here. Now, the other thing that I want to point out is as you go up past Prince Frederick, the way that the topography in Calvert County is, it's such that there's a lot of marsh going up on the water, and there's just not any houses. So if you notice, there's like, what, 3 sales, and Prince Frederick is basically right here. In between there, you have a couple. But as you zoom in and you kind of just look at the way that the land is, like, this is all marsh over here. This is all marsh over there. You have like a little cluster of houses, and then a couple houses right here, more farms. Just not a lot of opportunity to live on the water. So creekfront is going to be your biggest opportunity to live on the water. And I'm going to point out to you a couple of the major creeks really quick. Not much in the way of north of Prince Frederick, but as you get past Prince Frederick, there's 2 big creeks. The first one is going to be Battle Creek, and that's right here. And then the second one, the biggest creek, is going to be St. Leonard Creek, which is going to be right here. And you can see there's waterfront houses going all the way up and down. But the biggest opportunity to buy houses on the water, and I'm going to talk in other videos about why you might want to live in these different places, like what the advantages and disadvantages of, is going to be right here in this Mill Creek, Back Creek area. You can just see how the map starts to break up, and you can see there's just small pieces of land. You can see docks all along the water, all through here, lots of boats coming in and out of here. And this is going to be probably where you're going to want to consider if you're buying a house on the water. So I did a search of all the houses that have sold in the past 2 years in Calvert County, Maryland, and I went between 400,000 and 2.5 million. I mean, I could theoretically drop this down to like 100,000. It goes from 134 to 159. I think at that point you're buying lots where they sell them as houses. So we'll take a look and see what you get. So let's start with the most expensive house that ever sold in Calvert County in the past 2 years on the water. Well, actually, what I could do is let's just go ahead and make this like 10 million so you understand there's not anything else there. Still 159. So the results are the most expensive house that sold, sorted by the sold price, is 1.9 million right here in Prince Frederick. And this was a beautiful house. So this is the cream of the crop, the most expensive house you can get, or that sold in the past 2 years. We'll just take a minute to kind of just scroll through, because this is the most expensive house that has sold in the past 2 years. As you can see, it's been completely remodeled. It comes with a pool. It's right on the water in Prince Frederick. I'll tell you, for me personally, the ups and the downs of the different areas of living on the water here in a different video. But I'll just say that this area in particular is very nice because you can watch the sunset from here. The downside is that you're right on the river and you're going to have more boat traffic. You're more exposed to the weather. You're also right near the Benedict Bridge, so you might have some noise there. Let's just click through a couple real quick and just see what you get at like the over 1.5 million. This is Highlands Cliffs in Huntingtown. One thing I'll point out is when you're looking out here, you don't see any other houses. So you're in a more remote part of the river right here, and that's what I was describing earlier. When you get farther up past Prince Frederick, the houses are much more few and far between, and it has to do with what I was saying with the marsh. And this is kind of a good picture to demonstrate that one. So this one also has the pool, the privacy, which actually wasn't there with this other house that we just looked at. It's a little dated in there, but a lot of times when you're buying houses on the water, you're going to notice that the houses are dated, that they're usually owned by older couples who live there for a very long time, and they're not necessarily trying to keep up with the Joneses. Like once they bought that house, the Joneses conversation is over. They've kind of arrived where they want to be, and they don't normally like keep their house super updated. So that's one thing that you will notice with almost all waterfront listings. All right, Garrity Road in St. Leonard. This one is in St. Leonard Creek. This looks like this is a business. So it comes with a house, but there's more going on here, obviously. 1.6 million. And then every other house that's sold in the past 2 years is under 1.5 million. So let's start with 1.5, and we can see the first thing that I noticed here is that this is a nice private piece. Well, I can already tell by the picture this is near Solomon's. So this has riprap all the way around it. It's back in the creek. It's in the Solomon's Harbor. It's a very large house. This is definitely a very sought after piece of property for the location. Location has a lot to do with the price of this house. Deep water at the end of the slip. Obviously, it may or may not come with that extra coverage slip there, but there is deep water in Back Creek, which is one of the nice things about it, and it's one of the reasons why it's there. All right, let's go down and see what you're getting. This is in St. Leonard. This is down in St. Leonard Creek. This house had been recently remodeled, so somebody went in and dumped a bunch of money into this house and got it looking absolutely stunning. So this is an example of where somebody puts the money into a house and sells it for top dollar, like stamped concrete, all of these surfaces were redone. I'm kind of familiar with this listing. So this is a rare example of a house that's been fixed up on the water, and it's in St. Leonard Creek. I'll just pop open a map real quick so you can see where it is. Not a lot of, I want to say, like places to go on a boat other than one restaurant. There's not a lot of gas docks around here. There's not a lot of restaurants, you're going to have to kind of drive to Solomon's. So it's a little more remote. That house is in a neighborhood. It's a very nice neighborhood, obviously, and that's a really nice house and piece of property for $1.5 million. Cheneyville Road in Owings. This is going to be, again, where I was describing in the northern part of Calvert County. It's all marsh. So there's a few houses kind of just peppered in here and there. And here's a good example of one. Really nice house. This is one of those ones where if it pops up on the market, you're going to want to scoop it up because there's just so few of them. And this is a great house. Look at that view. Like, you're overlooking basically what the Indians saw when they were standing in the same exact spot. You're not looking at a bunch of other houses. There's not a bunch of other houses right piled all around you. This is a great farmhouse style redo that somebody did, and it looks really nice. It's a great house. Of all the ones we've seen, this is definitely one of my favorites for the money and the location. So now we're in Chesapeake Beach, and this is where part of the price that you're paying for has to do with the location and the fact that it's a proximity to DC. There's no other pictures here. If I pop this open, get some kind of an idea of where it is. You're literally right on the bay. The nice thing about this is it has the riprap there. You're probably elevated some. You're not too worried about like some of the other areas where you're super low lying and you're going to have water issues. This house looks like it's probably been remodeled. So the living space is at least, 6 foot off of the ground here. So you're not going to have to worry about flooding. Obviously going to have to deal with some stairs. Hopefully they got an elevator in there. Who knows? See why they don't have any pictures. One day on the market. They probably sold this before it even went on the market, or somebody had this built this way. All right, another one in Chesapeake Beach, $1.4 million. And this is a very, very rare example of a house that has a pier on the bay. Like, if you take an aerial image of the Chesapeake Bay, one thing you will not see are a lot of piers with boats on the end of them. Even these, like, one thing you will notice is like the dock is so far up off the water. Like, a lot of times you'll see a house on the river, on a creek, like it's much closer. It's just the way that the tide going up and down, and you also have to worry about like storm surges and things like that. And you can see from the way that the kind of scum is on this riprap that this was taken at low tide. Probably would look better if the picture had been taken at high tide, but it is what it is. Kind of stuck in between there, but you got the view from 3 different levels. This would be a fantastic Airbnb. Hopefully they got an elevator in there. It's kind of a cool house. $1.4 million. And another one in Huntingtown. This one's back on a creek. So this one's waterfront, but it doesn't really look like that's navigable water. Like, oh, never mind. Do they own the entire peninsula here? So this kind of gives you a good understanding of what I was saying, where when you get up past Prince Frederick, you have all this marsh. So it's like they have this property, they're on the water on this creek, and they're on, looks like the river, or this might be a creek. It's in Huntingtown. They have a few small creeks up there, I'm not sure. But there's nowhere to put a pier here that I can see. Really nice large rambler. Beautiful piece of property. I don't see the boat lift. So I wish they had chopped down some of the trees to open up the view a little bit, but I think you're kind of enjoying a lot of the benefits of living on the water minus the pier at the end of the dock. But you're also gaining, like, I mean, look at that picture. Look at this meandering creek, and there's no boats coming up in there. Probably some kayakers and whatnot, but you're not going to have all these like jet skiers flying in front of your house all day. Really nice house on a very private piece of property. That's really, really nice. All right, let's fast forward and get close to 1 million and kind of see what we're getting closer to 1 million. I'm going to skip over a couple because we're not going to go through all of these. Let's take a look at the way that the pricing is. So when we go between, so we have 160 houses that have sold. Between 2 million and 1 million, there was probably 25. Yeah, there's 25 per page. So 25 and 24 months, that's one a month. So what you can see is that there's not a ton of houses popping up, but that gives you some kind of an idea. I'm going to pop this open a little wider, and we're going to see how many houses sold between like 1 million, which is right here, and like maybe 750,000, something like that. And you can see that's probably the bulk, is between 750 and 1 million. And then between like 750 and 500,000, you're right here, which is another 50 or so. That's actually probably the biggest portion. So you could make the argument that there's a lot of affordable waterfront houses in Calvert County, if that's what you're looking for. And now we're going to do 400. And I'm going to actually say, when we're getting to some of these houses here that are 350, I'm going to say these are on lakes. Technically, waterfront's waterfront. There's no way for me to like parse out a lakefront, a pond front, and a waterfront. So for like 329, let's see what you're getting here. That's technically on the water. That's on the Chesapeake Bay. You're getting a little rambler here. Let's take a look. Yeah, you're at the end of Kenwood Beach Road. You're right on the beach. What a cool house. The reason why they didn't show the pictures of the beach from the house is because they have these trees right here. But you own this little spot. There's some disadvantages to this. The beach is the part of the neighborhood beach. You're going to have a bunch of people right in front of your house. But if you were to manage to like remove some of this, the view, it's probably the best view that you could have bought in Calvert County for $329. So let's go back and see what you get for like $750-ish, and then we'll kind of go down into the under $750-ish. So we'll pop open a couple starting around $780. So this house is in Solomon's. It's not like Solomon's on the island. This is more of like after you've left Solomon's and you've passed the shopping centers, there's some roads that go behind there that take you to these houses. And this looks like it has a neighborhood pier. So your house doesn't personally have one, but behind it is technically on the water. The way this is, I would say this is sufficiently waterfront. Like the next door neighbor's house doesn't have a good water view. This guy over here doesn't have a good water view. This one has a legit water view, but you really feel like you live in a neighborhood of similarly built houses that is a very traditional neighborhood that just happens to be on the water. It's not like you're buying waterfront property with that privacy. Whereas like that's more of like this house here. All right, so this is a good example of a house that's on the water, but you can't see the water from the house. So it's like you live on a very private wooded lot that happens to be on the water that also happens to have a pier. So you have to really consider what are the things you're looking for, what's most important to you. For some people, it's the view. For some people, it is the pier. For some people, it is the location and having a beach. For some people, it is the location in the proximity to getting to work every day, but you want to be able to live on the water. All of these things come into your decision-making process. This one's in Chesapeake Beach. This is an example of one of those townhouses I was kind of telling you about. This is in a cluster of identical looking townhouses that are right here on the water. So you can see, well, this one's actually a single family. But you don't own all the way to the water. Like you can't walk. I mean, you can because it's part of the neighborhood or the community or the beach, or I'm sorry, the town. But it's not the same thing as if you had a house in St. Leonard where you literally own all the property leading up to the water. So that would be one where you buy it for the view. Honey Cove, Prince Frederick, $751,000. This is in a private neighborhood down in Prince Frederick. You go off 231, you go down 508 in Adelina. This neighborhood has a community pier, but it looks like this house also has its own private pier. So this is an example of a house that I'm also familiar with this one, where the house is actually probably worth 1.5, 1.7, depending on a few things. And the house needs a lot of TLC. It wasn't well taken care of for the past 15 years. Prior to, you can kind of see the tape lines here, obviously some moisture situations going on. But when this house was built, you saw that metal roof, you saw the property, you saw the pier, you can see the cabinetry that was put in. Somebody had a lot of money when this was all built, and this was built probably very well. So this is going to be somebody's really fantastic property once they've gone in and, you know, brought this back to what it could be. So this is an example of an absolutely fantastic deal for somebody who's willing to put a little bit of elbow grease into this property. Chesapeake Beach, $750. You're on the bay, you're paying for the location, you're paying for the view. Looks like you do have a little bit of a yard here. You're paying for an updated house. One of the nice things about living in Chesapeake Beach and North Beach is you can walk out of your house, walk to restaurants, tons of restaurants. Actually sold this house right here. This one's in a neighborhood called Scientist Cliffs, and this is on the bay. This one has a community beach directly in front of it. It has multiple access points to the beach from the community and also from the street that this house happens to be on. This is an example of a 1940s log cabin that somebody has gone in and fixed it. So the benefit to this is you can listen to the waves crashing in front of your house all day long, all night long. You can open the windows, you can feel the breeze, you can watch the sunrise and the moonrise, you can watch the cruise ships go by. You have this panoramic view of the Chesapeake Bay. You're also buying into the neighborhood here. So there are these little eclectic neighborhoods where maybe you don't live on the water, but the neighborhood has a community pier. Sometimes they have a whole pavilion and a little beach area and different things. So there's ways to, if you're not necessarily looking for this view, but you're looking for the waterfront lifestyle, there's ways that you can sort of build a hybrid where you don't have to pay to live on the water, but you can be here. So this is like eclectic log cabin, legitimately built in the 30s. Like this stone came out of local fields nearby. It was like hand built. It's been completely redone, by the way. Again, I sold this house. All of this was redone. So you get this like really neat lifestyle, but you're getting modern fixtures and modern amenities inside the house itself. So there's another one here in Chesapeake Beach, another townhouse. Let's scoot down to closer to like 500,000 and 600,000 and see what you're getting for those prices. So let's scoot down to, we'll start at $599 and see what you're getting for $599. So this one says Lusby. I'm curious as to if this is even on a creek or on a lake. There's a lot of lakes in Lusby in a neighborhood called Chesapeake Ranch Estates. I haven't seen any pictures of the water yet, so I'm guessing that's not a big part of this listing, and you're just buying a big, nice Rambler for $599 that also happens to be on the water. There's another townhouse in Chesapeake Beach. Hammett Road, Solomon's, $598. So now you're buying a fixer-upper on some of the absolute best waterfront in all of Calvert County. I've actually been in this listing as well. This was a fixer-upper, but not like super, super crazy fixer-upper. What I felt like this needed was to open up this view a little bit. You're on the best piece of the most valuable water in all of Calvert County. It did have its own pier. The house needed some TLC, some updating. The floor plan wasn't absolutely magnificent, but you're really paying for the property. You're paying for the location. You're paying for the zip code. But you're not in Solomon's Island we'll call it proper. I don't know what the right exact terminology is for it. Let me just show you real quick. In case you're not familiar with how Solomons works, Solomons is a zip code, but when people say Solomons, a lot of times they're really referring to the island itself. When they say the island, they're referring to Solomon's Island. So if I scroll down here, my computer is recording video, audio, my screen, and is pulling up stuff on the map all at the same time. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I need to zoom out in order to do this properly. All right, so this house is here. This is still in the Solomon's back creek. But Solomon's Island, when somebody thinks about living on the island, they're talking about anything past right here. This is also kind of like when you've gone down towards Solomon's, here's where you turn off to the bridge. Technically, most people think this is kind of here. But the island itself, there's actually this little tiny bridge somewhere here that you don't even notice it, which technically makes this an island. But this is like the primo, super high-end, walkable everything, Solomon's Island, and then there's Solomon's, the zip code, which is right next to Dow that people don't really search for very often. If you're searching for waterfront in the area, make sure you include Dow. It's like a zip code that doesn't pop in your mind as being part of it, but it's like half of Solomon's, creek is in Dow. All right, so now we have Owings 595. This says waterfront, but this is like behind the house is this little stream that goes way out to the Patuxent River. But as you can notice here, there are no pictures of any docks or anything. It's just happens to be backing up to water. Cove Drive, Lusby 582. This one's off of Mill Creek. This one probably does have a pier. We'll see. Really nice vaulted ceilings, custom home, lots of windows, open floor plan, a little dated, but it kind of everything fits together. You know what I mean? I don't see any pictures of the water yet, so I'm wondering either they're not emphasizing the water for some odd reason or the water's not really that fantastic. There you go. Actually, this is a great piece of waterfront, believe it or not. This has got like, we'll call it a horizontal, I don't know what you want to call a pier that goes like perpendicular to the property. We'll call it a perpendicular pier. This is actually fantastic waterfront because it's deep right here. It doesn't get any kind of craziness. You're not going to have people jet skiing in front of you, but it's deep and you can get right out into the creek. The view, it's not fantastic. You're looking straight across. If somebody builds an ugly house here or whatever, there's not a whole lot going on, but it's very peaceful, very serene. There are going to be neighbors on both sides of you, but very affordable, really nice house that gives you the waterfront lifestyle for $582. That's a good piece of waterfront property. Greg Drive, Lusby, $580. I'm trying to remember where Greg Drive is. I think this is like right next to that last one. So the house is a little dated. It's decent size. It's 2,100 total. No, 2,100 above grade. Okay. I know. I've been in this house too. I'm familiar with this one. So this house is a really nice house, but it has this very small, thin piece of land that goes out to the water that's sandwiched in between somebody else. So you don't really have like, your house is not, the only way to explain it is to kind of show you this again. But this is an example of a house that has a water view, that has a pier and a boat lift, or at least has access to the water, but isn't really what you're necessarily thinking as far as waterfront. So here you can see it, right? Here's the strip of land that takes you to this pier. It's got a covered spot on it, which is something you can't get nowadays. But it's not like you're walking out your front door and the water's just right there. You can just walk out to your pier. Like you're going to have to you forget your keys, you're going to have to walk all the way back up here. So you're really paying for a nice house that has a decent view, and you're on the water, but you're not like prime time, right? Oyster Bay and Solomons, there are some condo communities. In Solomons, there's Solomons Landing and Oyster Bay. 567 Astor Road, Port Republic. This is another log cabin in the neighborhood of Scientist Cliffs. Let's go down and see what you're getting for under $500,000. So actually, we'll just start right at 503. This one listed at 499, but it sold at 503. Cove Drive, Lusby. This one's like across the street from the one we just saw a couple minutes ago. These are where you're going to find your value waterfront houses. You're talking under $500,000. That is a deep slip. Like legitimately, you can put a boat with a 3-foot draft right here at the end of this dock. You're not going to have a lot of waves. Your view is limited to 100 feet in front of your pier, and then you're looking at this guy's boat and then some trees. You're not going to have that, expansive view. But you're buying a really cool house. I've been in this house too. What is neat is they have this skylight in the middle of the room, and like the whole room kind of like goes up into the skylight. Is really cool. And then they had this fireplace over here. Kind of an open floor plan, a little choppy the rest of the house. There was a few things. Looks like this actually sold twice in a short amount of time. Looks like they went and did some updates. This is like on the budget side of Waterfront, where if you are looking for putting jet skis and a boat and you want to go fishing, you want to go kayaking, and you want to be able to do all that from your house, you don't have to go anywhere to do it. You can come home at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's the place you want to get. This is a very rare piece of property. I don't know anything else about it except for this is another thing that I'll mention. How many houses that sell on the water where you have your own personal private beach are just very, very, very limited? This is probably in Cove Point, which is one of the only places in Calvert County where you're going to be able to go walk out in front of a beach in front of you. It's either that or it's right in Lusby. There's like a handful, and I mean a handful. This is like one of those ones where if this pops on the market and this is what you're looking for, like a beach in front of your house, yeah, this is right in Lusby. These don't come on the market very often. Look at that. You have your own like 100-foot of beach right in front of your house. Now, you can't put a pier. We probably could, depending on what the HOA will let you do. Your pier is going to get beat up right here because you're on the Chesapeake Bay. You're going to have a lot of weather events right here. You're going to have potential flooding during storm surges and whatnot. But you're going to have a beach in front of your house. Like, that's as good as you're ever going to see. It's as good as it gets. All right, let's look at a couple more real quick in this sort of $500K price range. Lake Terrace, Lusby. We don't want to look at that. It's on a lake. Western Shores, Shore Drive, Port Republic. This one sold at $485. You're going to buy a small house that is on a bluff. So you're going to have a view. The beach in front of your house is not going to be your beach. It's going to be the neighborhood beach. But you're going to be able to hear the waves crashing against the beach. You're going to be able to walk to the beach. Kind of like Scientist Cliffs, but a little bit different. The beach is not quite as, well, actually, it's a nicer beach in many ways because a lot of the Scientist Cliffs beaches washed away. The neighborhood is not quite as nice. But that is a great opportunity to live there. Oyster Bay, again, this is a condo. Buena Vista, Prince Frederick. So this is like on the same street as the most expensive house that sold for like $2 million. This is, I've been in this house too. This is like 600 square feet. This was a great opportunity to live on the water for very, very inexpensive. And this is an example of a house that would be just the most awesome Airbnb. I'm going to tell you something that you won't know by looking at this. This is a county road and people are allowed to park right here. So if you're sitting here with your beach and you're enjoying watching the sunset and there's these dudes up here just chilling, listening to the radio, I'm saying we get a fence. I'm saying we get a fence as far out as we possibly can. Downside of this was only like 672 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. You could obviously look into getting some permits and redoing it, but the house wasn't super fantastic. They had put a bunch of money into waterproofing. The pier needs to be redone. You are right on the river, so that there are legitimate waves coming through here and big boats going by occasionally. You are on, no, you're not. I was going to say you're on the other side of the Benedict Bridge, but you're not. There's the Benedict Bridge. So the bigger boats are on this side. One thing, keep in mind, if you go on the other side of the Benedict Bridge, the bridge has to open to let big boats go by. So you don't see very many yachts cruising on the other side of the Benedict Bridge or sailboats. All right, 466, 462. Here's where there's going to be some great opportunities if you're willing to sacrifice a few things. Maybe the house doesn't have a pier. You're going to have to put the pier in. Maybe the pier needs to be redone. Maybe you have to walk down a cliff to get to the pier. All of those things are going to be popping up in like the 450 to 650 price range. And I'm sure people are curious, what are you getting for like under 400,000? What can you get for a bargain? Because there are quite a few. We'll start right at 400,000. Church Road, Lusby. Look, the first picture is a house with a covered boat slip and a lift and your own pier and all of this. I think I remember this house as well. I think what they're not showing you here, there's an issue getting down to the water potentially. I think this house is like up high. I don't know. I'm not going to discuss it, but that was a great deal. It said the seller selling the house as is. Obviously, there might be some issues there. All right, Reef Way, Solomons, Maryland. I think this is a condo as well. Yeah, this is Oyster Bay. Okay, so here is a townhouse looking condo, and this is one of my favorite neighborhoods in Doubt. Now, these are kind of on the water, but you really can't barely see the water. This is where you have the waterfront lifestyle. So yeah, so here's the view from the back. That's actually a pond, and on the other side of the pond is Mill Creek. And then what you saw before that is the neighborhood pier. So in this neighborhood, many of the houses come with deeded boat slips. So you own slip number 43 or whatever. You have to walk out the back, go down through the path, walk down the end of the pier, get on your boat. So you're not pulling up to your own private pier. There's probably some rules and whatnot on what you can and can't do. You might not be able to fish and crab off the pier. I don't know. But these are really affordable if $397 to you is affordable. And you get to live in a waterfront community that's legit on the water community where you can walk to everything. You don't have to some neighborhoods that have neighborhood piers like, St. Leonard Shores, Honey Cove. You might have to drive a quarter mile, half mile because you live on the other side of the neighborhood. It's not the same thing as this where you're just going to walk down. Condo in North Beach. All right, Big Bear Lane, Lusby. This looks like it's on a creek. On a lake. This is another one that's on a lake. Actually put an offer in on this house. This house is super cool. This is like a decent sized rambler, needs a ton of work, but you're on this bluff. You're overlooking the Chesapeake Bay. After a few trees kind of come out of your view, this is in the Chesapeake Ranch Estates. Now, technically think about this. You could walk out of your house down this little stretch, and then boom, there's the whole community neighborhood beach that you can enjoy and walk back and forth to. You have the view. You have this lake back here. I don't know what kind of fish are in it, but technically you actually owned all of this piece of property. You could theoretically kayak back here if you wanted to. I don't think anybody really does. You could fish back there if you wanted to. But the best thing about this was you had the view if you open it a little bit, but you don't have to worry about your house falling off the edge of a cliff or getting washed away or flooding because you're up on the bluff. This was kind of a cool opportunity. 380 townhouse or condo. Williams Wharf Road, St. Leonard. This is an example of a fixer-upper that is an absolute steal of a deal. If you are ever looking for a fixer-upper, this is kind of what you get. 375 on Williams Wharf Road. Whole entire house is super dated. Probably was built at different times. Probably, has lots of issues. Probably needs to be completely rehabbed. But this is not really even showing you what the benefit to this house is. The sun sets right in front of you. You are literally like on the river, looking down. The sun sets right in front of your house. The sun sets like right over here, but you could also, depending on which way you're facing here, you can see the Solomon's Bridge. There's Brooms Island right here. Really nice opportunity where at 375 you could pick this up, put some money into it, and have one of the most prime locations in all of Calvert County. North Beach. So as we're getting into these low under 400,000, you notice they're all pretty much condos or on a lake. You're not getting much. This might be one. You're gonna have to really look few and far between to find a house where you're gonna have your own private pier on the water. And here, this looks like this one's on the water, but the pier's not put in and it's not cleared out. And it's just a lake. Yep, you're in the Ranch Club Lake. So people don't swim in that lake. It's not like the, movies in the 80s where people would just like dive off the lake in the back of their house. I don't know all the reasons why. Some bacteria, a lot of septic systems around the lake. I don't know all the reasons why. But I don't see a lot of people swimming in that lake, so this would not be necessarily a great opportunity. You could probably catch some bass behind your house. Whether or not you want to eat them, I don't know. But that's it, guys. I hope that gave you a good view of what you get for the price in Calvert County, Maryland. I would real quick just like to snap through a couple points of data. Days on the market. So these $1 million ones were 75, 245, 158. You went from 2 million to 1.9, 1.8 to 1.8, 1.7 to 1.6. They're still selling pretty close. They're taking some time to sell. And then you see a lot of these 4 and 5 days peppered in. And then you see these peppered in here. And then as you get down, you don't see too many of them going very long. There's a couple of these 100+ days in between on the market, but most of these are actually selling pretty quickly. So it's not one of these ones where you can assume that you can just wait around. My advice is keep in mind 0 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 3 days, 6 days, 5 days. A lot of that is the house goes on the market. They get, a ton of showings the first 3 or 4 days. The sellers are not even going to take any offers. Let's say they put it on the market on a Wednesday. They wait until the following Monday. Then they start counter offering, ironing out all the details, calling all the people back. And the house goes under contract on like a Tuesday. So even if it's like 5 or 6 days on the market, that's really the same as selling it right away. So you can see about half these houses are selling almost immediately. The advice is, if you're interested in buying a house on the market, I can send them to you within 15 minutes of them hitting the market. Get out and see it as soon as possible. Try to get to be one of these 3 days, 0 days, 2 days types buyers where you put the offer in immediately. It's like an offer you can't refuse. Take it off the market. So that's it, guys. Hope you found this helpful and informative. My name is Brian Mayer with the briansoldit.com. liveonthewaternmd.com. Make sure you like and subscribe my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.